And she said so many people get caught up in that fact of like, well, I'll make less, or well, my life will be more. I think the chapter was on simplicity. So she was talking about how people are afraid to live simple lives because they think that the more that they have, the more happier they'll be. She says it's often the opposite. There was another story of a guy who it was a really nice gentleman actually who was dying, and he had an older son and an older daughter, and the older son and older daughter were fighting really bad, like yelling at each other, like right with him in the room dying, and so the author, who was the caretaker, was like, "What are you guys doing? This is you're freaking yelling at each other in front of your dying father. Like this is wild." And so
That is wild.
she starts talking to the father after that, and he's like, "Yeah, my daughter kind of like moved away." Because they were arguing because the son wanted more of the inheritance than the daughter, because the son had stayed around in the area, but the daughter had moved away. And the father was explaining how the daughter had moved away, yeah, but she had also basically gone after her dreams, essentially, and stood up for her dreams, versus the son kind of accepted a crappy job, worked a ton of hours, did fine for himself, but was there to take care of his dad a little bit more, even though he said that the daughter took care of him too a little bit. And so the caretaker, the author, was like, well, like, why do you think that your son is so upset about that he's worked so hard and not getting the recognition that he deserves? He's like, well, the father is like, well, I tell him, I thank him for doing stuff that he does for me, and I show my appreciation for him. But she's like, yeah, but like, have you ever told him that you love him, like out loud, or that told him that you're proud of the man that he's become? He's like, well, no, but like I'm sure he knows. And she's like,
dang.
She's like, I would really encourage you to say that before you die, basically, and encourage him to, because she shared about herself, and she'd gone from a career of banking to a very simple life too, and that's what got her into the whole caregiving thing. And so she was basically telling him that story, and made him flip and say, you know what, I am going to talk to my son. So he brings his son in and starts talking to him, and she can kind of hear it a little bit from the other room, and she gets called into the room, and the son's just like bawling. 30-year-old, 40-year-old son's just like bawling.
Dang.
And the dad's crying, and she's like starts crying too, and so she just was hearing the father say to his son, like, son, I love you. I'm proud of the man that you've become. You don't have to prove yourself to me. You don't have to prove yourself to the world. Like, you're enough, basically. And that is what the son had been pursuing, was not the status, the money, the wealth, the big house, whatever. It was him being enough, to seen as loved and be proud of by his father, who he admired.
Yeah.
And the father ended up passing away a few days later. The siblings like reconnected and were reconciled.
Really?
Yeah. And then he actually sent the author a letter a few years later explaining what he's been doing. And he ended up quitting his job, selling their nice cars, selling their big home, took his family, and they moved to like an outer, smaller town. And he basically got relocated in his job to a smaller, like a different place, right?
Yeah.
Same job,
Yeah,
but took less pay and took a less commute. And so he got like an extra hour and a half each day with his kids now, and bought a smaller house, like has one car, not super nice, really downsized everything, living in their means, basically, not keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's like, I'm the happiest I've been in my entire life. We're living simple. He's like, I get to spend each day with my kids. When I get home, I love my wife. Like, I'm so thankful that you talked to my dad that day. He was like, it was that day that changed my life.
Gosh, dude.
And so, like, she sprinkles in those stories to emphasize the points that she's making.
Yeah.
The points that the dying people are making, really. It's not the points she's making. It's the points that she's heard from all the dying people she's taken care of. So now I realize why it has been such a powerful book for people, because it's the stories she writes so well and the personal side of it that really, really cuts deep.
And what was it that Oh, you're okay. So what point was that story under?
I think it was. So she kind of has like sub chapters, and
Okay,
this
okay.
sub chapter was like simplicity.
Oh, right. Okay, that's what you said.
So, oh, and I think it was under chapter 3, which was I wish I had had the courage to express my feelings.
Mm.
So, he was expressing his genuine love and his
Yeah,
pride for his
yeah.
son, too, which he just didn't feel like he needed to express beforehand.
Dang, dude, that is so wild. It's so wild the effect that had not only on the brother, but then the son, but then the relationship between
The sister.
the sister
And the brother.
The brother. That's insane, dude. I was gonna ask, when it comes to all these regrets, points 1 through 5,
Mhm.
do you think that it seems like the root cause of all those regrets is fear,
Yeah.
right? It
Dude.
seems like that.
You're spot on. You're spot on. You're spot on.
Because you were afraid to do something or to say something, to be something.
Yeah. To
And you
risk
find-
something.
Yeah. And then you come to the end of the road and realize you never did that thing that you wanted to do, be, say.
Just because you
And
were afraid.
because you were afraid. Gosh, dude, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Because we were saying, because we said before we started rolling the cameras, how I was saying, I don't know, like, gosh, if I think about that for me now, if I were to die today,
Yeah.
right now, what would I regret? And that just, because I was saying how I feel like I think about death. I don't want to say a lot, but
Yeah.
enough to
Yeah.
where it affects the way I live, for sure.
Right.
But like I told you, most of the time, I still just see it as something that's way off in the distance. It's not something. I think about a lot of like what will people say about me when I die. That's what I think about.
Mm.
But in some ways, I almost feel like I'm never gonna die. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I just feel
I think that's a normal thing.
yeah,
of-
like I'm
of
gonna be
youth
young and free for
forever.
as long as I live, forever, right? As long as I can stay healthy and whatever.
You want to hear something wild about that?
Huh.
Kind of philosophical. Death is the only certain thing in life. There's nothing in
that
life
is
that
deep.
is
Holy
certain.
crap.
There is nothing in life that is certain except death. For every single person.
Wow.
You're not guaranteed literally anything. The only thing that every single person is guaranteed is that they will die. At some point. And so, like, people may think, oh, that's so morbid. Like, I can't believe you think about that. Like, you think about death, that's so weird. But it's like, and no, it's not weird. It's a tool to help your brain realize, oh, this is not
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. It
This is
gives
not
you
forever.
it helps
It
you
gives you perspective.
perspective and purpose.
Yes.
It helps you find a reason to live
Yes.
because you don't want to die and end up on your deathbed
Yeah.
and realize, dang, what did I obviously no one wants to have regrets
Right.
when you're on your deathbed.